Today, our second Sabbath of the month, we have scheduled a time, since school is over, a time to recognize our children who have obtained awards and honors in their schooling. I think it's time to focus a little bit on these children and not just neglect them. Most of our messages are all for the big people, for the grown-up, and we seldom address the children, but I think it's time and appropriate that we also mention this or devote a time for the children. It's not just for the children, but even adults will learn from this message. Now, first, have you considered how many organizations in this world have been organized and dedicated to saving animals, like whales and few others, even in the Philippines? So we have the Philippine mouse deer, considered an endangered species, the Philippine eagle, considered endangered species. If I would ask you a question, how many NGOs, non-government organizations, are devoted to preserving animal life on this earth, whether whales, eagles, monkeys, or other things? How many would say? Probably more than 6 or more than 10 or 15? Marami na yan. Or 20? Sobra. 25? 30? 35? Well, you'll be surprised that this world is more focused on animals than children. I just want to read a rundown of some of these organizations that have been organized and funded by millions to take care of animals in various forms. Of course, since I alphabetically arranged this, maybe as I read through, you count. It starts with the American Museum of Natural History. It's not just a museum, but they are also dedicated to saving and preserving wildlife. Okay, the next year is BirdLife International, dedicated to preserving bird life. The third is Center for Biological Diversity. That's the third organization. There's also an organization called the Charity Navigator. They go throughout the world to see what they can do to help. And then there's also Charity Watch. So these are all dedicated to taking care of natural life. And then Charity Water is dedicated to preserving the water supplies in our world. And then we have an organization called Conservation International. So it tries to get a bigger take on many of the wildlife. And one of the maybe known is the Greenpeace. The Greenpeace organization, they have boats, they have staff, they have people that's funded by the U.S. to try to help preserve wildlife both in the sea and in the land. We have also International Rescue Committee. They'll try to rescue endangered species of animals. We have a private organization called Jane Goodall Institute. That organization is devoted to conserving. We have also a French organization called the National Audubon Society. French organization to preserve bird life. And then we have Ocean Conservancy to preserve life in the sea. We have Pantera Corporation to take care of or preserve panthers or that family of creatures. I think it will include leopards, panthers and others, because they consider that endangered species. In the United States, there is a popular a government actually organization called PETA, P-E-T-A, P-E-T-A, and it actually means People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And if anyone reports you mistreating a dog or a cat, you'll be reported to this PETA and you'll be penalized or imprisoned if somebody reports you mistreating any animal. PETA. I think this organization will not allow cockfights in the U.S., of course, but in the Philippines, who will implement? So it depends. And then we have an organization called Protection of Marine Corals. Pati mga marine corals, yung nasa tabi ng dagat, which looks like it has plenty of holes, rocks, but plenty of holes. Those are corals. Those are actually supposed to be living things, and they're supposed to be growing. Skeleton lang yung nakikita nito when we break it off, and it has plenty of needle-like holes. But they want to preserve that. We also have Rainforest Trust, which takes care of rainforest in countries that have rainforest. Brazil will have the biggest, Guyana, and many other places. And of course, we have an organization that concentrates on the whales. Save the whales. They consider this an endangered species. And then the Nature Conservancy Organization. And we also have the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP. So even the United Nations has dedicated one of its arm to taking care of environment. And then we have Wildlife Conservation Society in India. We have also Wildlife Conservation Network, involving many conservation organizations. We have also Wildlife Conservation Society sponsored by UNESCO. UNESCO is United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. So at least two agencies or organizations in the United Nations devoted to taking care of wildlife. We have World Commission on Protected Areas, and they have designated areas that are to be protected and not subject to occupancy, urban dwelling, or other things. And then we have World Conservation Monitoring Center. This is also under the UNEP, United Nations Endangered Environmental Program. We have also World Resources Institute. And we have Worldwide Fund for Nature. You see this often, the WWF. And then there's a koala bear as a logo. World Worldwide Fund for Nature. And we have the Zoological Society of London. So these are some of the things that I have gathered from the internet that is devoted to preserving animals, wildlife. And I think if you were counting, how many did you count? Nobody was really counting seriously. Diyan, ilan? 27. Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Tama. Galing. So, he took it seriously. So, 27 organizations from various parts of the world dedicated to taking care of animals, from cats and dogs to whales. And, of course, I did not include our own Philippines that's taking care of the eagle. I did not list that here. But we have the Philippine Eagle Society. Hindi ko sinali yan. And we also have those taking care of endangered species like the uh, Philippine mouse deer, and a few other things in Palawan, which is considered endangered species. So it could easily be 30 in all if we put them all together. 30. Now, why did I list all of this? When we are talking about children, do you see the correlation here? Do we have organizations this much, this dedicated, and putting in millions in its fund to take care of children, protecting them from destruction and from abuse? It will tell you where this world's priorities are. Nakakatakot and very surprising. Because while we have all of these organizations taking care of animals which are not created in God's image, the world doesn't care about human beings. Now, for example, I would say the most endangered species, not the lemur or the whale. I wouldn't say species, but the most endangered generation is our children. I hope you can see the point. Why? Right from conception, they're already marked for destruction. And that's something we need to wake up to. Marked for destruction. In the U.S., they can be aborted anytime. In fact, even close to childbirth, they can still be aborted. Even in the process of birth, they can be killed. They need the tissue for stem cell, for organ transplant, and many other things. It's a material that is used in the medical profession and in the beauty profession. The placenta is used for beauty aids, pampakinis ng mukha. Buhay ng tao yan. So I am saying that no one is protecting them. In fact, the laws are against them and commercializing their life and their existence. That's why I drew the attention to almost 30 organizations that protect animals, but who will protect the children? We in fact have laws for their destruction. I think that is a slap to the creator of human life. And this is what I would like to bring to your attention. Many people don't realize what they are doing. But we are creating a curse among ourselves. Now, according to the website of the World Health Organization on International Reproductive Health News on Abortion Facts, it's each year, globally, there are 35 abortions per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44. In 2010 to 2014, where we have the statistics, while it went slightly down from 40 per 1,000 in 1990 to 1990, the abortion rate has declined markedly by 41%. In developing countries since 1990, but has remained roughly the same in developing countries. Now, there are other things here. Between 2010 and 2014, the Guttmacher, this I would say is a German organization, Guttmacher, meaning good maker, Guttmacher Institute, estimates that approximately 56 million abortions occurred each year around the globe. How much? 56 million. Can you count 56 million in one day? I bet you cannot. Even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you won't reach 56 million in one day. And that's the number of abortions committed each year around the globe. That's the estimate of this Guttmacher Institute. This up from an estimated 50 million abortions per year between 1990 to 1994. So from 2010 to 2014, every year we have 56 million. which means 2010, 56 million. 2011, 56 million. 2012, 56 million until, usually that's the average around the world. Is there an organization trying to protect these children as they protect the whale, as they protect the eagle or the flying lemur? It's a travesty. It's a great irony. And out of this, actually the statistics there is itemized. An estimated 64% of all global abortion, which is 35.8 million, occurs in Asia. Why? Asia is the most productive region of the earth, with its tropical climate, with its perpetual paradise, sun and sand and sea. There's so much production of children yet being destroyed. Not like in cold countries. Sa cold countries, wala eh. Lahat nakabalot ng husto. Eh dito, nakahubad. So, the production, and that's why we have the biggest 35.8 million abortions per year in Asia, whether it's Thailand, the sex capital of Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, Philippines, and many other places here in Asia. The irony is no organization really focuses on preserving and protecting children. Now, I focus on this because today we'll be like to honor children, but out in the world, they don't care. Now, so starting from the time that they are conceived, when they are most vulnerable, when they are most helpless, they have no attorney, they have no defense, they have no money to protect themselves or to guard their own life. Wala. I have seen one testimony by a doctor in the American Senate hearing committee. He described how abortions is performed. It was a video, and he was a doctor, and he was describing. He said, they have a forceps. What it can bite, let it bite, pull. Oh, it's an arm. Put that to side. Put the forceps again, let it bite. A leg. Okay, put that there. So piece by piece until some internal organs. Oh, we got the heart. Okay, put that there. It's very gruesome until everything is taken out piece by piece. Walang awa. Good that in America we have PETA, okay, to have ethical treatment of animals. But do we have ethical treatment of children in our hospitals, in our abortion clinics? Wala. And I would say that God will require these things eventually. Now, many years ago, I heard about some people talking about the Civil War. Why is it that so many American lives have been lost in Civil War, fighting each other? Somebody said that is their payment for mistreating the slaves. Killing the slaves wantonly, mistreating them. They paid with their own blood, the American population. So, lahat may kabayaran. Everything has its day of reckoning. And woe be to this travesty that we have. In fact, the Bible prophesies that those nations who are doing this will eventually go to captivity and will suffer horrible experiences in captivity. They'll pay for these things. But I hope they wake up in time for these things. Now, I was just talking about abortion. How about child abuse? There's so much. It's hard to get data because hardly no parent will go and said, I abuse my child. Do you have any? I have 3 children, I abuse them, or what? No parent. So how can you get data? While abortion, there is the hospital data. So it's hard, but don't tell me that nothing is happening there. In every home, especially, we cannot have a blanket condemnation, but many homes that are unstable, where there is a problem in the family, maybe through poverty, so children are being abused, or even sold to white slavery. And if you know what I mean with white slavery, sige, punta ka na dun para may pera tayo, para ka mag-uwi ka, may pagkain tayo. Kasi wala tayong ibang pera eh. So, this is child abuse. Young children, teenagers being sent out. And many other things like that. And this is also produced by fathers leaving their children, or fathering a child out of wedlock. You know this. You know, friends, you can name names. I can name names. Pag nabuntis yung babae, perma, boyfriend, girlfriend, pag nabuntis, sibat ng lalaki. Hugas ka mo. Wala ako. Ikaw na bahala dyan. Pagtyagaan mo na yan. Wala na ako. They disappear out of the scene. And the woman is left to fend for 9 months of pregnancy, raising the child. In some cases, to remove that burden, she resorts to abortion as well. Kasi hindi ko kaya to. Walang cooperation. But in many families, the children grow under the care of the mother, absentee father. In many cases, does not even send any support. Walang pakialam. And so these children grow up wild, untaught, and the most likelihood is these children will perpetuate the same problem. Kung babae, teenager pa, nabuntisan na rin. Kung lalaki, nakabuntis na rin. So it goes to the cycle. And history repeats itself. And I've seen that also with my own eyes. So we have these things. While it's more common for fathers to abandon the woman they have impregnated, it's less likely that a woman will abandon her child. But there are still those who do. This is not an exception. Now, in cases where even the father and mother are there to take care of their children due to poverty, economic difficulties, or other things, there is what we call the dysfunctional families. Dysfunctional means there's always fighting, there's always quarreling. It's abnormal. Okay? The father does not support, the mother will have to do whatever is needed, and there's always quarrel, and the children are neglected. Dysfunctional family. And that also is a precursor to what we will call broken families. So after years or months of dysfunctional family, eventually they break up. And so they end up a broken family. Now, these are under normal circumstances, but in the Philippines, please know that the OFW phenomenon adds to this problem. When the mother is out, anything can happen in the family. Or when the either spouse, or if both father and mother works abroad, things happen to their children. Yung mga bata, mga babae nabubuntisan, teenager pa. Yung mga lalaki, nakakabuntis at drug addict pa. So it's a big problem. And is there an organization that's helping out? Well, we have DSWD, but how much can it do? Not much. Not much. Unlike yung nandiyan ang daming organization to protect the whale and the eagle and many other things. So, you would begin to think, how come that we have such problem in human sphere. When we are the highest of God's creation, and yet we have this big, unsolvable problem, and no one seems to be attending to it. Bakit ganun? Is there any bigger reason why this is so in the human family? Well, I would say, number one, that I would like to blame Satan. Satan is so angry with the human race. Okay, next to God, his anger is directed against the human race, the human family. Kaya hinahayaan niya yan, and I would say, making things happen that way. I'd like you to read with me Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. I'll not use my own words, but would rather use the words that already recorded here. And remember, this was written almost 2,000 years ago. And don't tell me it was just a one-time event 2,000 years ago. It's been going on year after year, month after month, day after day, to our time, and it's not yet finished. It's not yet finished. It says here, Revelation chapter 12, verse 12. Part of the statement here, therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell on them, but woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, meaning the islands of the sea. Like, Philippines, Thailand, Indonesia. Some said, bakit yung Indonesia na wipe out successively with the tsunamis? They said, yan, sex trading yan, just like Thailand, the Philippines. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has a short time. So, great wrath, it's not just anger, and it's not just wrath, it is great wrath. And that's why you can see the events that are happening here, and there is no help, there is no remedy, there is no viable organization dito sa, when I look at the listed all the organizations taking care of animals, patong-patong ang care nila. They are one after another. Even the United Nations has more than one agency taking care of these things. But for children, hardly any. So, one of the biggest culprit here or cause is Satan's wrath. When you look at these things, I could just imagine Satan's wrath in allowing legislators to authorize abortions. Who is that angry? Who does not have mercy for an innocent human life? I could only see Satan. And those in the board or in the committee or in the Senate who are approving this are tools of Satan. I would have to say that, if they have no conscience to approve these things. So Satan indeed has his people on the face of this earth to execute all his anger and wrath among human beings. Now, another factor under Satan, operated by Satan, is, I would say, human ignorance. Human ignorance. Many people in this world are simply ignorant. They don't seem to know any better because this world is blinded by Satan. Blindness that actually has been prophesied, and we've mentioned this many times, that Satan has blinded this world. Revelation 12:9 mentions that. Satan, the devil, has been cast to this earth and has blinded humans so they don't see any value in human life. They say, well, that's just a piece of meat. That does not matter much. And that is how perverted human ideas are, and the lack of it. Now, aside from Revelation 12:9, I'd like you to open to Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Hosea. That's after Ezekiel and Daniel. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. It says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," including supposedly the people of Israel, okay? The people that are descendants of Abraham, okay? They're called my people, for lack of knowledge, true spiritual knowledge, through ethical knowledge, through moral knowledge, they don't have. And because you have rejected knowledge, many don't even consult the Bible. "I will also reject you from being priest to me. Because you have forgotten the law of your God, I will also forget your children." And that is why this is happening to children in those nations who are shall we say, the progeny of Abraham, the chosen people. So they have rejected God's laws. And they don't know where they came from. They don't know who, or they don't give proper acknowledgement to who gave them the blessings. Blessings of having a car, nice home, government subsidy for medical, hospitals, and many other things. They abuse these things. So, and they don't regard human life. Many of these have evolutionary concepts which are false. False. This world is really going down. And as a result of human ignorance, we have lost our way. Even justice, we don't know justice. In fact, Jeremiah lamented, he said, the way of peace they don't know. They have devised crooked ways, and they have concocted things which will entrap them, even the laws of our land, our country. This world is really confused. If you really analyze each part, each aspect. Now, with regards to discipline, even our governments are confused. Even our lawmakers are confused. In fact, some of the lawless or lawbreakers are children of top government officials. You will be surprised if you really analyze very carefully. I don't like to mention names, but it's easy to find out. Many of the children of top government officials are among the lawbreakers. It's sad, but that's true. And so, because they are misguided, okay, they don't know God's ways, they don't know even what laws to make or how to balance the laws. So we have, even in our society, the Philippines alone, we have two extremes. Either they allow corporal punishment or no punishment. Both are wrong. Corporal punishment, I recall the time of my grandparents, grabe. Corporal punishment was inherited or learned from the Spaniards, who are very cruel to the Filipinos. Very cruel. And so, because that's what the government taught them, they became very cruel to the people. So, some people, that's bad. That's bad. It came to the point, even when we were children, you have dirty fingernail, pack with a stick from the teacher. Okay? Or dirty mirror or dirty hand, okay, dirty pack. Look at the other, dirty hand, pack. And many other things. The teacher at that time have always a stick. I don't know if you recall that. Old people know that. In the 1950s, 1960s, and I think even maybe early 70s, the teacher has always a stick with him. That's smart. And that's to create discipline. Okay. So, I've seen that. I grew to that age. And then eventually, parents complained. And so, it came to the point where the children are no longer afraid of the students. Now, it is the teacher that is afraid of the students. Baliktad na. Bakit? Madyaryo. Maradyo bombo. Or the parent will go stomping down the school and put the teacher to shame. So, the teacher is now helpless. And so, when the class is noisy, okay, bahala kayo. I have my salary. You spend. I don't care. You don't want to listen? Okay. So, ganun na ang nangyari. Which, how could we progress? How could we prosper with that kind of society? And there's a law that penalizes punishment. So, mahirap yan. And there is a popular 163. Even children can report their parents and have their parents arrested. Mahirap yan. So, many children are no longer afraid of authority. If they cannot even respect their parents, how much more authority in government? Wala na. It becomes a lawless society. And so we have a very fragmented, confused, and unstable society now, showing the end times that we are in. So, where do you draw the line? Legislators, because they don't read the Bible, don't know what laws or where to define the laws. Wala. Kaya, this world is becoming a lawless world. And there are many things, side effects to that. And if children cannot obey their parents, how can these parents teach their children properly? Wala. They don't care. They walk out. Especially in American societies, I've seen American societies, ang tatapang ng mga teenager. Sinasagot yung parents. Sa Pilipinas, sabi ko dito, hindi pwede yan. Nako, sasagot-sagot ka. They don't care. They walk out. And will not go home. So what? You have plenty of friends. They stay in the house of friends. And that is where many things happen. Okay, they get impregnated. Many things can happen. So, this world is doomed. Unless it could be straightened out, but I doubt that it can still be straightened out. Now, what does the Bible talk about these things? Kasi since we have rejected the biblical teachings, we're lost. But thankfully, we, the people of God, and all those who are listening to this, are still being guided by the Word of God. There are many verses that I can read, but I'll just get a few. Let's start with Deuteronomy chapter 6. The time of Moses, this is fundamental. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. Okay, 6. It says here, of course, the background would start in verse 4. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord, that's Yahweh, our God, our Elohim, the Lord is one." It is not numerical one. If you dig the original word, it's not numerical one. Okay. The Hebrew word is ekad. But anyway, rather than going to the technical aspect, let's continue on. "You shall love the Lord your God, Yahweh your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." Many people don't love God that much. With all their soul, their might, their mind. They love their business, they love their hobbies, they love pleasure more than God. And so right here, it begins to be a failure because you cannot teach what is required of you. Verse 6, "And these words, okay, which I command you today shall be in your heart. But God's word are not in the hearts of people. In fact, they have rejected God's word. And further, if it's in your heart, you shall teach them diligently. When it says diligently, meaning carefully, consistently, sincerely, to your children, and you shall talk to them when you sit in your house. Parents seldom are at home to sit and talk to their children. When you walk by the way, it is assumed here from the text that the children and the parents walk together on the way, going where? To their farm, to their workplace. They work together as a unity. And the children see how the parents solve problems in practical manner in the farms. Now, this is no longer possible or done. When you lie down, which means they go back together to their home, prepare meals obviously, and when before sleeping, the parents are supposed to talk to their children, tell them stories, give them encouragement, give them evaluation of the day's activities. You know, son, we made a mistake there. We should have started with that and followed with that. It was reversed. Next time, let's do it the right way. And many other things. So just evaluation of the day's activity. And you know, son, we have been blessed by God. We had rain. The plants could have failed. So many things like that. And point to God. And when you rise up in the morning, that means they sleep more or less together. And so children, it's time to go up, to rise up. Let's prepare breakfast so we can continue our work where we left off yesterday. So that is a very strong family unit. And that was in the olden times when the nation was more agricultural oriented. But now that it's industrially oriented, people go, father go, mother goes, children are left by themselves on their own, without any such training as mentioned here. And naturally, this begins to be the breakdown in our society. Industrialization is good, but it has its bad side effects. And of course, there are other instructions here. He said, you shall bind them as a sign in your hand, and they shall be a frontlets between your eyes. Some Jews do this literally. They cut this verse, put in a little leather bag, bind them here, and put it in leather bag, copy it, and put it between their eyes. Well, that's literal, but the application here should be more practical. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and in your gates. Some put these things in their gates, in their posts. Although what I see most likely is people just put the Hebrew letters for Yahweh in their doorposts. But that's not what it's saying here. But anyway, we are very far from doing this. And whenever we depart from God's ways, we get the consequence. But I would say it's not hopeless. I would say that all of us, all of you Christian parents, can still do this to some extent. Especially, I'm just happy that many have home-based jobs. Yung mga internet work, that's a blessing. That's a blessing. Or if you work near your home, that's a blessing. I would say that online jobs is a blessing to God's people. You can be with your children, and you can attend to them anytime during the day or night. So take advantage of those opportunities like that, and try to apply as much as possible. Now, so this is to the parents, which I would say. I'd like to go to the children. The Bible has a lot to tell the children. Mga bata, paminaw. Okay. Proverbs 1:8. Proverbs 1:8. It says here, And remember, these words in Proverbs was written by the wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon. So he knows what he's talking about. So in Proverbs 1:8, he said, "My son, hear the instruction of your father, and do not forsake the law of your mother." So that should be obvious. It's talking of the family atmosphere. This can also be interpreted for the adults in the church. You have no more father, you have no more mother. Okay? So, we are still the sons of God. Hear the instruction of your father to our Father God. And these instructions are in the Bible. So, there is no escaping. Don't say that, I don't have father anymore, I don't have mother. God is our Father, and do not forsake the law of your mother. Our mother, spiritual mother, is the church. So, there's no escape. We still need, because the church teaches the law of the Father, Father God, to the members. So, both children and adults fall under this category. Now, that's not all. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1. Across the page. So, some of you, he said, "My son, do not forget my law, but let your heart keep my commands." So, it's still talking about God's commands. While most Christians, most people now say, there are no more laws, there are no more commands of God, all we need is love. That's not true. Because love actually is an expression of the commands of God. So, he said in Proverbs 3:1, "My son, do not forget my law." Yet many people rather want to forget, not just forget, but reject, throw away God's laws. And let your heart keep my commandments. They said, no more commandments. So it's the opposite. Because of this concept, mistaken concept, a complete reversal of the instruction of God, people are turning bad, and their children are turning bad and wild. So every time that we depart from God's ways, it will boomerang back to us. Now, I'm almost doing every chapter. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 1. "Hear, my children, the instruction of a father, and give attention to know understanding." And of course, to small children, their physical father is the one addressed here. For adult ones who have no more father, our Father here is God. And we have to know the understanding. And he said, "For I give you good doctrine." Okay? "Do not forsake my law." Yet people just forsake his law. "When I was my father's son, tender and the only one in the sight of my mother, he also taught me and said to me, let your heart retain my words, keep my commands, and live." So these are instructions. Here, King Solomon, he was a child then, was listening to his father, King David of Israel. And the mother mentioned here was Bathsheba. So here was an obedient child, of course. And then get wisdom, get understanding, do not forget, nor turn away from the words of my mouth. Do not forsake her, and she will preserve you. God's words will preserve us. Okay, and love her, and she will keep you. Wisdom is the principal of thing. Therefore, get wisdom. In all you're getting, get understanding. Exalt her, and she will promote you. She'll bring you honor when you embrace her. Now, our children going to school, many of them are getting honors. I would say they are diligent in their studies, in their assignments, obedient to their parents' instructions. So they're getting awards because of this. And it says further, verse 9, "She will place on your head an ornament of grace." At the time, it was more of the laurel leaf. Now, they hang medal around your neck. And that is the modern counterpart. Many of our children obtained lots of awards with the ribbon around their neck, with a medal hanging at the bottom. A crown of glory will she deliver with you. Hear, my son, verse 10, and receive my sayings, and the years of your life will be many. I have taught you in the way of wisdom. I have led you in the right path. When you walk, your steps will not be hindered, rather. And when you run, you will not stumble. Take firm hold of instruction. Do not let go. Keep her, for she is your life. Do not enter the path of the wicked. And this is very important to our children. Do not follow the ways of your classmates who don't have Christian parents. Remember that, children. Don't follow them, even if they'll entice you. Do not walk in the way of evil. Avoid it. Do not travel on it. Turn away from it and pass on. And then it talks about what they plan to do. They do not sleep. They are just thinking of evil. So there is here a separation between the godly and the ungodly. And please remember that. And of course, while we are here, I'm reminded about Psalm chapter 1. I would like all our children to remember and to be able to recite Psalm chapter 1. We were required to recite this, memorize this when we were children, and it has guided us very well. So if you'll follow with me to Psalm chapter 1, let's go to that, because this is relevant to what we just read. Psalm chapter 1 talks of two ways, okay? Two ways. And there are just two important ways. So he said, blessed is the man, or blessed is the child, who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly. There are children that will give you bad advice, bad counsel, whether children or adult, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. So one thing that we should avoid, starting from childhood, so you'll be spared from the problems in this life. So first is, do not walk in their advice, in their counsel. Huwag pakinggan. And do not stand in their paths. Huwag kang paligoy-ligoy doon sa daan nila. Don't stand there or stay there. Or even sit in their seats. Saan naka-istambay yan? Whether sa inuman or whatever, don't. In other words, be completely separate. And that was my motto when I was a child. I did not go with those that I perceive are not righteous, who are not guided by their parents, who are mostly abandoned by their parents. Don't follow them. Okay? Verse 2, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and try to know the laws of God, and in his law he meditates day and night. Always think, why is it that God said this as compared to some other things? You have to think. Now, my reason at that time is God cannot make a mistake. When he says something, that is true. God cannot make a mistake. Unlike people, their ideas can be a mistake. And so I don't listen to that. And I meditate. I said, God cannot be wrong. And his word has stood for ages. Verse 3, and if you do that, he shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, meaning well taken care of, and that brings forth its fruit in its season. So it's timely when it bears fruit, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he does shall prosper. And while friends, classmates consider me or despise my ways, I did not mind that. But looking back, all those ungodly classmates of mine and friends are nowhere. You cannot even find their names in the Facebook. Well, many of them have been dead long time ago. I know our valedictorian, because of over drinking. He died. He was not even 20. So, and others. So, it's not just sikat siya. It is more of following the ways of God. And then in contrast, it says in verse 4, the ungodly are not so. Okay? So, there's a difference. But are like the chaff which the wind drives away. You know, a chaff is just empty. It's just the covering of the wheat or the rice. And it's just good for burning. Therefore, the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. They'll be out of God's kingdom. They'll be out of those who are good, among the good people, who preserve a good name. For the Lord, or Yahweh, knows the way of the righteous. So it's God who is looking down. But the way of the ungodly shall perish. So if you could remember and recite this from memory and always make it a guide in your life, you children are in good hands. You are in good hands. And so there are many other things here that we can read, but this should be a very good foundational guide for our children. Now, other examples now, they say, oh, those are all Old Testament. Let's go to a couple of New Testament instructions. Let's go to Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Actually, we cannot exhaust all the teachings here. There are so many. But this should at least be a good guide to us. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 1. Talking about children. Parents, he said, children, obey your parents in the Lord. So there is a qualifying statement. In the Lord. He didn't say, obey your parents. Kasi yung sabi ng parents, nakawin yung manok nila hindi pwede. That's not in the Lord. Okay? Or do some dishonest thing. Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. And then, also he said, honor your father and mother. So, huwag silang bastusin. Do not ever talk back. Of course, you can explain. And I welcome my children to explain. Okay? So, I understand better. So, honor father and mother, which is the first commandment with promise. The promise there is that it may be well with you, that you may live long on the earth. Okay? So, if you have been following your parents, you live long. Kasi why? They know better. Sabi, huwag kang sasama dyan. Masama yan. Maging addict ka dyan. Or yan, masangkot yan sa stabbing incident. Mahuli ng pulis yan. Pati ikaw, sangkot ka. Pati pangalan mo, sira. Maging wanted ka. Mablatter ang pangalan mo. My parents always mention to us, take care of what you do. Don't ever allow your name to be put in a police blotter. That's what he told us. Don't ever allow, that's why always think before you do or participate or join, and don't allow your name to be in the police blotter. That's a blot against your name. Preserve the integrity of your name. And then advice to parents in verse 4, and you fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath, but bring them up in the training and admonition of the Lord. So, huwag yung iniinis, nagagalit, punishing them unjustly. Hindi pwede yan. Don't ever provoke them. Where they say, ganyan pala ang father ko. Very unjust. Kung ganyan ang God pala, ayaw ko yung God. Unjust. Remember, we fathers reflect God. So, dapat tama lang. Do not show anything that will reflect badly on God, who is our overall Father. So, be kind, be considerate, be understanding, be patient with your children. Never allow your children to look at you as a bad representative of God the Father. Yan ang masasabi ko. After having raised children, that's one good advice I can give you. Now, it's not only to the Ephesians, but the Apostle Paul wrote similarly to the Colossians. Let's go to Colossians chapter 3, verse 20. Colossians chapter, Colossians, Colossians, sandali. Colossians 3:20. Of course, instructions to a Christian home, but let's go directly to 20, although it will be good for the stability of the home to start with verse 18. He said, "Wives, submit to your own husbands as is fitting in the Lord." Fitting, not just submit ng submit, as it fitting in the Lord. And the Apostle Peter mentioned about the example of Sarah. Okay. And then husbands, love your wives and do not be bitter toward them. Sometimes mainis ka na, galit ka na, and you become bitter. Avoid this to maintain a good family relationship. And then the instruction after wives and husbands is to children. He said, "Children, obey your parents in all things." Now, itong in all things is qualified by what the Apostle Paul wrote in Ephesians. In the Lord. Okay. For this is well-pleasing in the Lord. And then in verse 21, "Fathers, do not provoke your children lest they become discouraged." Discouraged, disappointed, or have negative attitudes against you. Mahirap pa naman alisin yung negative attitude. Very difficult. Okay? They can forgive, but it's hard to forget. Kaya dapat palaging tama. Tama. And then it goes to servants, which we does not concern at this time. Now, and for parents, one final thing I'd like to mention here in Proverbs 22, verse 6. Proverbs 22, verse 6. This should always be part of our guide. 22, verse 6 of Proverbs says, "Train up a child in the way he should go." Okay, train up a child in the way he should go. "And when he is old, he will not depart from it." The Jewish Publication Society said, "And even when he is old, he will not depart from it." Talagang na-train na yan. Talagang ganun na. Very well trained. So, to cite certain examples, teach them discipline in everything, well organized, and even I have seen some of my children, even if they're all very organized, disciplined, maski matanda na, they have a shelf, place for everything, very organized, and a label for everything. Or if you taught them the value of writing and being very careful and meticulous, they'll do that even when they are old. So it started with writing a theme, make suggestions, ganun yan. So, very important, the parents can lay a very good foundation. And the foundation that they lay for their children is part of the training which these children will bring with them in their older years. So this is a very important training. Okay, before I close, actually, there are many things more, but I'd like to read here a poem which I think is very appropriate for parents and also children. This poem is written by Dorothy Lo Nolte. It's popular. And in my family, many years ago, more than 30 years ago, I have this in the wall, frame. So if you could frame this in the wall and draw attention that from time to time, it will help as a guide. Now, the title of this piece is "Children Learn What They Live." And I think this is timeless. I've applied this to my family, and I am sure that you parents who have children now can apply it to your family. There are, let me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 things. 18 things that starts with an if. Okay? 18 things. The first one, if a child lives with criticism, he learns to condemn. Puro criticize, puro criticize. Yung bata, puro condemn. Which is true, I've noticed that. Next, if a child lives with hostility, he learns to fight. Palaging may kalaban, may kagalit, so he learns to fight. Third, if a child lives with fear, he learns to be apprehensive. May multo dyan, may wakwak dyan, may pulis dyan. And I even noticed some people in provincial areas, si Mr. Macareg, pastor, nandyan. Ginugulat nila sa pangalan ko. Wala naman kung ginagawa. So, do not teach them that way. They learn to be apprehensive, so palagi nagtatago sa kwarto. Next, if a child lives with pity, he learns to feel sorry for himself. Sabi niya, ako pa nagpabigat sa pamilya natin. Ako pa, itong kinakain ko, sayang din. Sana, hindi ganyan ang kuhan ng pamilya natin. Kawawa tayo talaga. Sana mabawas-bawasan kung ako lang hindi dito sa pamilya. So, it's a good. If a child lives with ridicule, he learns to be shy. Okay? Ang pangit mo. Ang pangit mukha mo. Whatever it is. Ang pangit ng ugali mo. So, this child will begin to be shy. Magtatago na lang. And he will not be proactive, will not be active in school, will not participate. Sa isip niya, pangit ako eh. So, ganun yan. Next, if a child lives with jealousy, he learns what envy is. Yan. So, palaging kino-compare. So, hindi maganda. If a child lives with shame, he learns to feel guilty. Kasi palagi tumitingin sa sarili niya. Siyempre, nobody is perfect. So, he always feels guilty. If a child lives with encouragement, ito, positive na ito. If a child lives with encouragement, he learns to be confident. Kaya mo yan. Kung kaya nila, kaya mo yan. So, he learns to be confident. That's why in summer camp, we have the team encouraging each other. Come on, you can do it. Ganon. So, nagagawa naman. Yung akala hindi magawa, nagagawa din. Encouragement. It's the positive state of mind. Kasi kung dito pa, talo na, wala na. Talo talaga. Yung sabi, hindi ko kaya, wala talaga. Pero kaya mo yan. He will be able to do it. If a child lives with tolerance, he learns to be patient. Sige lang. Next time, kaya mo yan. You try again. Try once more. Yan. Tolerant. Don't condemn for one mistake. Lahat tayo nagkakamali. If a child lives with praise, he learns to appreciate. So, he's always thankful, appreciative. If a child lives with acceptance, he learns to love. Yan tinatanggap. Okay? If a child lives with approval, he learns to like himself. So, yan. Okay yan. You are a child of God. You have potential. You have talents. So, he learns to love himself. If a child lives with recognition, he learns that it is good to have a goal. And that is why we are having Recognition Day. To recognize the children who made an effort to have to excel in some of their subjects or their activities. So, if a child lives with recognition, he learns that it is good to have a goal. And this will motivate them for next year. Pagsikapan ko. Ngayon, 2 medal lang. Next year, sikapin ko 3 medal. Ganon. If a child lives with sharing, he learns about generosity. So, he share. So, he said, okay, maganda para ang matulungin. Actually, if you help others, it gives you automatic good feeling. No one had to tell you. If you help others, automatic. Magandang feeling. Ganon. There's a hidden law concerning that. If a child lives with honesty and fairness, he learns what truth and justice are. So, tama lang, fair and honest. So, walang dishonesty, then he learns what truth and justice is. If a child lives with security, he learns to have faith in himself and in those around him. So, he's secure. Sabi, huwag ka matakot. I'm here for you. Your parents are here for you. Your brothers and sisters are here for you. We will help you. We'll defend you. Ano. If a child lives with friendliness, he learns that the world is a nice place in which to live. So, friendly, instead nga, tinutuya, criticize, condemning, negativism, no. Friendliness is good. Okay. And he will succeed in a world like that. And if you live with serenity, your child will live with peace of mind. So, peaceful sa bahay. So, the child will also have peace of mind. He's not worried. And you always teach that our stability and serenity is in God. And God is always with us. So, he lives to have peace of mind. Final question, with what is your child living? That's the question. So, we have to ask ourselves what our child is living within their home situation. Ganon. So, some of you might want to copy this from the internet. There are many ways that it is framed. I got the simplest one, yung pinaka-simple. So, children learn what they live. And I hope that with the messages that we have learned this afternoon, we can apply them in our life. Okay? But do not forget that this world has a false sense of values. They give more emphasis, more protection to animals than humans. And they have no qualms about abortion, but they have qualms against cruelty to animals. Baliktad yata. So, who is the author of all this? Satan, who hates us. And the legislators who makes laws that are contrary to God's laws. But we should be guided by the Word of God in all things in our life, even concerning our children. And let us be guided by certain practical principles in life. So with that, I hope we can improve. It's not that we did bad, but we can always improve. And it is said that the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. And let it be so in our respective families.